I thought I'd show you a little bit of stuff about how to protect and assess your propellers and shafts, and make sure everything cathodic protection wise is working properly. So I'm under this lovely Dale Nelson 38 powerboat, and got a pair of beautiful propellers here, so I'll show you the start of this. So how do we know if the propellers are good? Well, the first thing is to keep them as clean as possible. These have been cleaned up. You can see how dirty they were before they were cleaned up from what was existing here from last season. And then a good visual look of the blade, looking to see if there's any pitting or cavitation marks starting, and obviously the edges of the blades are all intact as well, which is a really important thing. The seizing of the propeller onto the shaft is also important. Here the washer has been used more than once, so this has been folded backwards and forwards several times. So it should always be folded on a minimum of two sides. So this side here is the sides of the propeller, which I'll come to in a minute, and then on the other side here. So it's been seized in two positions, which reduces the chance of it being thrown if you have to go hard astern at some point. The size of the propeller and the serial number should be marked on them. This one's quite hard to see, but you can see it here, and this one is a right-handed. It's a 24 by 32 right hand. If you've got a motorboat with twin propellers like this one, here's your left-handed blade, and it's really important that the right hand is on the port side, on the starboard side, and your left hand is on the port side. How do you tell which hand is hand? Well, you can actually see that the flatter edge of the blade is here, so as it's turning clockwise, the water has been pulled through the blade here and thrown away. So that's how you basically tell a right-handed one. A left-handed one is completely opposite, where the flat is on this side and then running away that way. Okay, and that turns, oh goodness me, and that one turns that way. Cutlass is a bit tight, they've just been done. I'll cover that as well. And then from an inspection, guess what? Get my old dad's hammer out, and I just very gently, as you can see, tap the edges of the blades, because if they sound the slightest bit dull, then you know you've got a galvanic issue developing. And if you look back through my history of some of my YouTubes, you'll find some propellers that are certainly not like that. These are a beautiful pair of propellers. I've also got a bronze rudder blade here as well, which again, funny enough, if you tap, you also get a very nice ring off it. Next thing I always look at is cathodic protection, making sure that all this running gear is correctly protected. I should point out there's a cutlass down here which has recently been changed. It's got a rope cutter on it, and then you've got another shaft support there. So again, it's important to keep an eye on those. Generally those ones up the top there get changed every other pair of these. So these are normally when they get to about a slop of about 1.5 to 2 mil off the shaft, where you can give a good push up and down and see them moving, then that's a good time to change them. The ones coming out the stern tube there normally are every other time, but it's worth keeping an eye on them. Sometimes I find they actually perish out before they wear out, and obviously by pushing up and down here you can get an idea of what's going on. So cathodic protection is the key to looking after these beauties. And I've got basically a meter here, multimeter on ohms, and I'll do two things. One is I'll stick the probe onto the propeller, and I'll stick it onto the rudder blade and see if we get any resistance across there. And we've got quite high resistance actually. We've I don't know if I can actually show you that at the same time. We're running on about 40, which is not particularly great. So we know there's a high resistance between the rudder and the propeller. I then do the same with the anode, and I found that there's a high resistance onto the shafts and obviously onto these. But when I go to the second propeller, the blade over there, the rudder blade, and this rudder blade, the ohms are really low. So I know the rudders are correctly bonded, and it's the running gear that needs a bit more of an improvement. If you look carefully at that anode, you can actually see that it's calcified and this is something that's getting more and more common, where zinc is shutting off because the water quality of where the boats are kept is not as salt as you would expect, and so the water's probably brackish, which means this anode is switched off. So really the most important thing to do here is to change the anodes over to aluminium, and then take a resistance from here onto the shaft and see if you can get that down to 0.2 of an ohm, which is really what you want for it to work. What else was I going to say? Yeah, if again, on my YouTubes, one of the things I've done before is basically I rock these very gently, just to make sure the keyways are working and all nice and tight, the propellers onto the boss on the taper correctly. But also sometimes you can pull these backwards and forwards, and you can feel a bit of play, which may suggest something going on in the gearboxes or the shaft couplings. So always a good hint. Anyway, I hope you find that useful. But these are a beautiful pair. It's a shame I can't take them home and put them on the garden wall, because they would be quite nice. But there we are. I hope you find that good. Cheers.